Hey, what is up, cool cats of the interwebs? It is your girl Haley back at it again with another pre-review crew podcast. As you might already know, I have my normal gang with me, but if you don't, let me introduce them. I have Brennan.
Hello.
And I got Mike.
What's up?
So we are at the end of the year. This is our November/December episode, and honestly, there just isn't a lot going on. We're also filming this early because of, well, it's Thanksgiving next week. So please bear with us. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties because we are recording this early, but I'll get to that in a second. We're going to kick it off with our review portion like always. So for November, I'm going to let Mike say the name because he says things nicer than I do.
Yeah, we have Shin Megami Tensei 5.
There we go, you heard it from Mike. It's a single-player JRPG, its developer is Atlas, and it's published by Sega. It came out on the Switch on November 12th. Its top critic average is 86, with 97% of critics recommending it.
I'm happy. I'm happy about
Yeah,
that.
same here.
It's like a lot of people are just saying like it's more Shin Megami Tensei and it's a little better than 4, which again I would have no idea, but it's
Yeah, I
just
didn't get to
nice
play
to hear
4.
that. Oh yeah, okay, so we're in the same boat there. But like, yeah, a lot of people are just kind of saying that this is, it's Shin Megami Tensei, like it's back.
Yeah.
It's back,
Yeah.
baby, and that's awesome.
Especially with the 97% of critics recommending. That's like one of the highest, score in that category I've like ever seen.
Yeah, especially recently too.
Yeah.
It's especially for like a JRPG too. I don't know this. I'm just happy overall. Honestly, like I haven't really read too many reviews, admittedly. But I am like a friend of mine and I have been talking about this for the past couple days, and we're just going back and forth on like, should we buy it? Should we not buy it? Like, and we're leaning on buying it. Only because we're fans of Persona. Like, I know, everyone knows that Mike is as well.
Yeah.
So, I feel like it's just interesting to see where a lot of Persona's biggest elements come from, and I think it's also especially funny that within like a couple of days you have Shin Megami Tensei 5 releasing, which is a turn-based JRPG where you capture monsters in your team, and then you have the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes coming out, a couple days later, which is also a turn-based JRPG where you capture monsters. And the tonal difference between the two is just insane. I just think that's so funny. To me, that's like it's not really as comparable as Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing coming out the same day, but it's just one of those things where it's like one is a really, really dark JRPG and the other one's Pokemon.
I was supposed to say it depends. Do you want to catch cute little creatures or do you want to catch demons?
I want Jack Frost, and that's it. I want a whole team of Jack Frost, and that's it.
The Pyro Jack?
I feel like he's the only one that I can really name off the top of my head. I mean, I know there's so many more. But Jack Frost just sticks out to me the most. That and the phallic shaped one.
I don't remember its name. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why would you?
Yeah. The one where I was just like, did they seriously put a penis in this game?
Yeah, like is that what I think it is?
Wait, they put a penis in this game?
In Persona 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think it's in Shin Megami
Forts.
Tensei.
I think it might be in Shin Megami Tensei only because I know that they tend to share a lot of the same monster designs, only because a lot of them are based off of actual mythological / legendary creatures,
Yeah.
figures of history, if you will. So they tend to have the same throughout both series and throughout most of the games. Which is always really interesting to me. Especially when I found out that a lot of them are based off of real historic figures and characters. Like that's just kind of cool, man. I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, I gotta get this. This is good. And there's no like bad scores, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at these and it's all high 9s out of 10s, like 8s. You have like one or two 7s. So it's weird to me that the top critic average is only 86, coming off of these scores. I mean, but it's it's definitely on the higher end skewing. You know what I mean?
I honestly thought it wasn't gonna do as well. I'm thinking maybe Persona 5 being so popular, people are like, oh, Shin Megami Tensei, that's where Persona came from. So that probably could be why, people are enjoying it so much.
Oh,
But usually
totally.
usually JRPGs like this don't get very high scores. You have your enigmas like Persona, some of the Final Fantasies, Pokemon, but for the most part, these like, incredibly Japanese RPGs don't score very well. Um,
Yeah.
because I love JRPGs, so there's a lot of JRPGs that I love that just don't do well in America. So I'm actually kind of glad this is doing really well because it's a good, really good indication of the future of JRPGs in America.
Oh, for sure. And especially since it launched on the Switch, which I am not sure if Shin Megami Tensei or any Persona games have released on Nintendo consoles previously. I feel
Shin Megami Tensei 4 was a DS exclusive.
Oh, okay, right. And they did just make a remake, so I take that back. But just the fact that it's a kind of a recent thing that it's just exciting to see, to be honest. Like you said, it's a big push for turn-based JRPGs. And to piggyback off your point of thinking that it might not perform as well as it did, I mean, I again saying this as kind of a naive Shin Megami Tensei viewer. I feel like it's kind of niche in the fact that it's really difficult. Like people, I feel like Shin Megami Tensei is
Yeah.
known for its difficulty, and it's known for its darker themes, and its overall gloomy tone. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people were going to maybe be turned off, especially by the difficulty. But I don't know. I feel like if Dark Souls has taught us anything, it's that the high difficulty ceilings are not as dissuasive. Is that even a word? Did I make that up? They don't push the difficulty doesn't push customers away nearly as much as people might think. That's and I mean, because again, Dark Souls at first was fairly niche, but then it spawned two sequels and more spin-offs, not spin-offs, but other games within the From Software universe that difficulty in itself sells well, which is surprising.
Yeah. I think people are getting too used to their games being so easy they need a little bit of a challenge.
What? You mean you don't like it when you can't save mid run and when you die you have to restart and then you bitch so much that the developer has to update the game?
The fact that they did that though makes me want to buy the game. So they got me. They got me. I haven't yet, but the Black Friday Sony sale is starting tomorrow. So hopefully, if there's a decent enough price cut, I'm going for it. I'm gonna see what Returnal's all about.
Give Returnal that $5.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be $5. I mean, it's $70 MSRP. So I'm hoping it'll at least get maybe 40% off. Maybe.
Nah, it's gonna be $7.
Jesus Lord.
I hope
Fucking
so. My God, that'd be so nice.
inflation.
90% sale.
Yeah, that's I wish. I wish.
More like 50 because I feel like that's as much as they probably are going to give us. And we're also only doing 50% of our podcast today. Why, you ask? Well, I said it earlier. We are hosting this early. So we don't have reviews up for Lens Island or Beyond a Steel Sky, as Lens Island comes out on the 26th and Beyond a Steel Sky comes out on the 30th. So come back for our end of the year award show next month. We'll definitely talk about those then if you're looking for reviews on them. Now, as I said, we don't have a lot to talk about. There's not a lot coming out in December. A lot of game publishers, at least it seems, really push their games for October or November just to get ahead of the holiday release dates. That way you can purchase them and play them over your break. So, the only game that we are going to talk about for the month of December is Halo Infinite. It's a single first person shooter, if you didn't already know that. It's developed by 343 Industries and it's published by Xbox Game Studios. It's coming to PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and it's releasing on December 6th, just in time for you to play it during Christmas to ignore your family.
Yeah, just as a disclaimer, in case people don't know, the December 6th date is the campaign. The multiplayer already released as what they're calling a beta, but it's like the full mode. So just to get that out there in case you didn't know.
And it is free to play. The multi portion is free to play.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, with like a battle pass or something like that, right?
Yeah, there's gonna be season passes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember reading about that, but I haven't had the pleasure to play the beta yet, which I am kind of looking forward to. I mean, uh, I've despite Halo Infinite coming out, I kind of went through a big Halo phase recently. I don't know if I brought that up before. I mean, I know I told you guys that, but I don't know if I brought it up on the podcast where I saw Halo Master Chief Collection just sitting in my Steam library having like 0 hours played, and I was like, you know what, I really gotta do this now that everything's out. And my God, is Halo a good game series? Like, what have I been doing my whole life? It's just fantastic all around, especially from a narrative standpoint. I mean, they're not all, 10 out of 10 story wise, but for the most part, and from the context in which Halo Combat Evolved released in, narratively speaking, it was pretty good. And we were talking about this in our little group chat recently. I'm gonna talk about highlights of why I believe that Halo's campaign being separate from the multiplayer is uh, just an overall interesting move in general. So, for those who somehow don't know, FPS games when they were first originally popular, and when I say that I mean like Doom, Wolfenstein, etc. Those were games where the story was kind of just tacked on, so it gave you a kind of background reason as to why you were shooting shit all over the place. Like you were just shooting demons, and so Doom is like, oh well, there's a portal from hell and demons are coming in. You got to shoot them. Duke Nukem as well. Duke Nukem's in there, and Halo and Half-Life come out in the early 2000s, and there's just a bit more of a cinematic aspect to it, right? Like, especially Half-Life. And in Half-Life, you're on that little train cart thing with the exposition kind of being told to you and also visually seeing it through the environment. And Halo does that as well. And again, it was a single player campaign where the story was kind of a big deal. Obviously the shooting was part of it, but there was a genuine connection between the Master Chief and Cortana. Seeing how that story played out was rather successful, and it led to Halo's overall success in general. So to me, I think that's really important. To then also, oh god, that bleh. Oh god, I'm sorry, I'm having a moment. I have to edit this out. The multiplayer, interesting enough, was kind of tacked on afterwards, especially in Halo's case. Like, just Combat Evolved's multiplayer aspect was kind of just thrown together at the end of development. So again, multiplayer being kind of an afterthought. And same thing with Half-Life. Like, Half-Life's multiplayer community really was spawned out of a mod, essentially, thus leading to Counter-Strike. And we all know how successful Counter-Strike is. Valorant had to just copy it, but that's a different discussion altogether. I'm not going to talk about that. It's a different time. But over the years, we've had less and less of a focus put on campaigns and more of a focus with multiplayer. That's just what people are craving nowadays. With some games just outright stripping campaigns altogether. Um, yeah, like I can't think of any off the top of my head only because I'm not a huge fan of FPS games in general. But I'm sure you could probably think of a couple on your own where the devs were just like, "Oh, we're not even gonna ship it with the single player campaign." Oh, I know Battlefront, the first Star Wars Battlefront was just multiplayer only, and people complained about that. And so now 343 Industries kind of after Halo 4 and 5, they were like, okay, not only are we gonna completely revamp Halo in general, because apparently we have no idea what's going on, both within the story, game feel, the art style. They really just they really just dropped the ball on pretty much everything. Again, I'm only saying that as someone that's new, but I feel like even if I can see it, then hardcore fans of Halo have been upset about this for a while. So I just think it's interesting that they're splitting the campaign and the multiplayer entirely. One's free to play and the campaign is a full $60. So to me, that means either A, 343 is completely banking on the battle passes from their free to play model, right? To make money. And or did I say one or two? Or did I say one or two or A and B? Whatever. The second point is that they really believe that they made this campaign like everything that people have wanted while making some innovations, of course. Because otherwise, why would you split them? Why would you split them at all? Because again, most people in this, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of FPS fans, generally speaking, in this historic time, they really only care about the multiplayer. And again, we've seen that because some games have stripped the campaign. But if they know that a lot of people only care about the multiplayer and they make that free to play, and their campaign is a full $60, they have to know that there's going to be more people that play in the free to play beta or just in general the multiplayer than the single player, right? So I just want to know, how do they think they're making a profit off this? And again, it's either through the battle passes or it's because they just really tried and they're confident that they made a successful game, and via word of mouth and reviews, people will flock back to Halo like they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. Yeah, and then I wrote, video games have come a long way since Pac-Man. I don't know why I wrote that. And
Um,
that was the end of my train of thought entirely. That was a very long time for me to talk.
yeah, I think them separating the two, they're really banking on people being invested in Chief's story. Because like you said, like the first one, the multiplayer was tacked on, and as the story went on, people were interested in seeing kind of the adventure of Master Chief, and Infinite's continuing that, and it's bringing some new stuff into the story. So I think that's what they're kind of aiming for, is for people to be like, okay, I really want to see what happens next in this story that I've been invested in 20 years now.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're kind of thinking, is like, okay, we could put the multiplayer for free, people will enjoy that, but we're gonna take something we know people are really invested in, really have been focused on for years and years and years, and that we know they're gonna pay for.
I buy that. I buy that entirely, especially from, again, the narrative standpoint, because five pretty much leaves on it ends on like a sort of cliffhanger where Cortana seems to be like the bad guy, or
Yeah.
very simplified. She's now the bad guy. Oh no. And game after game, you've been with Cortana. Most people, I feel like, have a pretty good connection to both Chief and Cortana. Um, Especially Cortana. I mean, like, Chief doesn't really talk too much. Cortana actually has a personality, so I feel like it's a lot easier to like her as a character. I mean, like, Chief's a badass, but again, just he's pretty much just as dry as a brick wall in terms of personality. He obviously cares about Cortana, so you as a player are meant to feel like you care about Cortana, and Infinite is supposed to, at least I believe it's supposed to, tie up all those loose ends within the narrative. And I also think it's interesting that they're doing an open world design. I mean, a semi open world design. I'm I'm like wishy washy on that, only because I hope it does as well as everyone thinks it will. But I don't know. It's just so weird to me to have an FPS game be semi-open world. That I feel like that's not really something you see very often or at all. And I don't know. It's also kind of making me weary about like just the we hear open world nowadays, and I feel like most people just kind of groan. You know, it's like we've seen this so many times.
I mean,
But
I feel at least when it comes to open world games, it's everyone's trying to sit there and be like, uh, it's almost like a my open world's this big. How big's your open world? Haha, mine's bigger than yours. Like, it's fucking annoying at this point. It's like, yeah, we used to bitch about it way, way back. Like, okay, like we wish games were bigger. Like, give us more stuff to do. And now it's just like, okay, we're gonna make a map this huge, and we're just gonna pack so much shit in it that it takes you 4 years to actually complete. And I'm just like, exhausted. I can't even make it halfway through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I've been playing that for a whole year.
yeah, that's a great example, honestly.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that
Um,
game has like 600 collectibles or something. It's fucking ridiculous.
yeah, I think doing this is kind of a gamble on 343's part. Because yeah, I've when I think of open world FPSs, I think of like Far Cry and yeah, I think of Far Cry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's not too many of them.
There's not a lot out there. So I really do see this as kind of a gamble on their part in doing something that's not as you know, popular, not popular, but just as, really out there. Um, Words are hard. But just them kind of, especially because it's Halo. Halo was always, you're on one track, the whole game, the story wise, you're on
Yeah.
this track going the whole way through. Excuse me. And then all of a sudden, Infinite, they're throwing you into the semi-open world. It's like they're probably sitting around like, okay, we do new for players coming back, and they're like, oh, semi-open world, let's throw them in there and see what happens.
I mean, if anything, it does have me interested. Like, I'm not completely against it. Like, part of me just wants to play it just to see how it pans out, just to see how how well designed the overworld is, and especially with the other additions, such as like actual boss fights that aren't like complete garbage. With health bars and stuff. That's kind of weird. And like the ability to upgrade your skills and stuff and like your equipment. It just seems so very different from what people are used to. And I have to say, like, it does leave me a bit curious. It does, pique some interest where I don't know, I can see it being enjoyable. But again, on a semi unrelated note, even like with Elden Ring and how most FromSoft games are rather linear, outside of maybe the first Dark Souls, an open world to me is like, well, I don't know about that one, buddy. I don't know how it's gonna work, but I am invested to see, and I'm invested enough to see, like, okay, well, I'm along for the ride, but this better be good, right? Like, this better be kick ass, otherwise I'm gonna be pissed. Because if I have to walk from point A to point B across the whole map without anything interesting happening, then what was the point, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited. Even though like I just got on the whole Halo train, um, as an outsider looking in, it's just the whole thing is interesting. Not only, the payment model, but also the changes to the fundamental gameplay are just insane to me. Yeah, like you said, Halo was known for its level by level gameplay. And that was it. Some areas, some levels were a bit open, enough for you to take different paths or whatever, but you were still constricted to a level. So this is completely different from that. Um, and I'm mostly excited to see where this goes. Don't I don't know. I feel like a lot of it really just has to boil down to the story because I know that a lot of people were upset about 4 and 5 story. More so 5 than 4, but in general people were just not happy with how 343 is handled.
Mhm.
the established universe so far. And I mean, that's kind of a fair judgment only because it's not what they created, you know? It's kind of like you writing a story and then handing it off to someone else and be like, "Yeah, I finished this," complete the other half, and the other person's like, "What? I've only played the first two games, you know? I haven't even touched Halo 3 yet, you know? Fuck." So, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. Story better be good. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Cortana better come back in the end or some shit. Like she better have a reason for being a bad guy. Cause man, I don't know. I don't know what'll make me happy to ending this story. I have no idea anymore.
I'm really curious. Like you said, I loved Halo 1 through 3 and Reach. I love those stories. 5 can oh my gosh, 5, no. But I am curious as to what they're gonna do with Infinite. Not just because it's semi-open world, but it's like you're saying, this is the end of this is the end of something, that we've been on a ride with for for a really long time. So I am curious to see how they're gonna handle that and what's gonna happen and whether it will be worth the $60. Because, if it comes out and it's amazing and great, I'll pick up the story for $60. Like I said, I loved the early Halo games. I love Master Chief's story. So I'm kind of looking at this one from the distance, but at the same time, I'm like looking at it with like a little bit of interest.
I feel you. I'm in the exact same boat, to be completely honest. Like I would definitely be happy with a $60 purchase that completes the story, at least in a satisfying way. And we were talking about the multiplayer beta a bit earlier, and you were mentioning that it reminded you of old school Halo, and I'm hoping that the campaign can emulate some of that as well. From the overview trailers that we've seen, and especially how much they've changed with their year-long delay, it definitely holds my interest. So I think this is a buy. I think this is a buy for me.
I know nothing about Halo besides Master Chief as the main character.
Oh
I
uh,
boy.
I mean,
you want to play?
I'm not into first person shooters. Everyone should know that by now. I'm just not big into them. But I mean, the Halo franchise has been around for years and it's widely popular. Like I feel like if you mention to anybody Halo and Call of Duty, they know exactly what those two games are. You don't have to explain it. So, I mean, Halo's Halo and it's going to sell because it's Halo.
And that's kind of the beauty of Halo. I don't like first person shooters. I kind of stay away from them with the long stick. Um, but Halo, I love playing Halo. It's just fun. Like yeah, it's in a way that Call of Duty isn't anymore. It's just really fun. I've been playing the beta and so many wacky shenanigans, going on playing this game. I'm just sitting here thinking like, man, this is it's awesome that it's free. I would pay for this though because it is just fun, which I'm probably going to buy the battle pass because it's just enjoyment. That's what I want for my video games. I want them to be fun, and that's what Halo Infinite is providing me with. A really good, exciting time right now.
You know what? I'm glad that you're having a really great and exciting time right now, Mike.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that you care that much.
I honestly don't. But um, so we know that Halo Infinite is definitely going to be a big hit for December. I mean, honestly, I don't really know if 343 can really fuck it up, and if they do, then I will be highly surprised. So, being that we don't have a lot to really talk about, being that some games that we are reviewing haven't come out yet, and there aren't a lot of games to preview, we're gonna now move over to our end of the year segment of the episode. So we're rolling to the end of the year. We only have about what, like 2 weeks left? Like, yeah, about 2 weeks left in the month of November. So now we're going to talk about some major news that has happened throughout this year. First, we're going to talk about the console shortages. Everyone knows all about them already. It's been going on for about a year. If you don't know, well, now you know. The PlayStation and Xbox, their latest generations, have been out for a year now. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas. If you don't have one, you probably will never get one. And there's a reason why. There is a shortage of precious minerals that go into making computer chips, and those computer chips are short because their minerals are short. So this is affecting everyone from computers and video games to cars to even the minerals that are in your shampoo. Yeah, that's an actual thing. So let's briefly talk about this and give our opinion on the past year. I do have both the Xbox Series S and the PS5. I believe Brennan has the PS5. I don't think Mike has either one just yet.
PC Master Race. Okay, I'm a liar. I gotta switch.
Of course you
He's
do.
not wrong though. He's not wrong though. PC Master Race.
True. Uh,
Honestly, this kind of doesn't surprise me, considering what's going on in the world right now. Because, like you said, it's not just game systems. There's cars and even our shampoo. So wash your hair now, people. Good hygiene. We need to keep our hair clean. So it's just, I think, just right now, it's just the way that the world's going right now, because we're seeing food shortages. There's, for Christmas, people are going to be fighting because there's going to be shortages on toys and stuff. So just seeing that there's going to be console shortages doesn't really surprise me. Especially because the Switch, I remember last year, I have friends trying to get Switches, and they were so hard to find. They were sold out everywhere. When the 30 series graphics cards came out, sold out everywhere. So Sony and Microsoft coming out and saying, hey, our consoles aren't going to be produced as much next year. It really didn't surprise me. If anything, I was like, okay, I was expecting this. They finally just came out and confirmed what I was expecting.
Yeah, it just sucks. I mean, obviously it's understandable, like you said, just because of the mess that we've had to deal with for the past 2 years now. I don't know, time escapes me. Yeah, I mean, it took me a whole year, literally, to get my hands on a PlayStation 5. And I don't know. I keep even going back and forth on like, is it even worth it? Is the next gen even worth worrying about in general? And like, I don't really know. I don't really have an answer to that question. I mean, I know it's kind of unrelated to the fact that there are shortages, but I don't know.
I mean,
I,
we've briefly talked about it before, and my view on the console shortage is that right now it's just not worth it. And it's not worth it because nobody is putting out games that you can't get on past gen. So if you already have a past gen console, you're just better off playing on past gen until more consoles come out and developers start pumping out more exclusives just for the latest gen.
Plus, if
Because
you have, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like it's stupid for anybody right now to put out a game that's going to be a PS5 exclusive when not a lot of people have a PS5. That automatically just your game's not gonna sell because nobody's gonna buy it because they can't play it. So right now, I feel like if you're looking, I would say, and like I said, I believe we've mentioned this before in past episodes. Casually look for the latest gen console if you want one. Don't stress about it because I mean, it's predicted that this isn't going to wrap up or at least become flat until like 2023. So you have a while. And especially with Sony putting their games out on they have their PlayStation Now subscription. You can play a whole bunch of PlayStation games on there, and they're moving their exclusives to PC. It's like you have alternative options nowadays. You don't need the next gen if you can't afford it or can't find it. And then there's Xbox Game Pass as well.
I was about to say, yeah, don't worry about the consoles. If you have a decent PC, gaming PC, everything coming out on Xbox is being put on Xbox Game Pass. You can play it on your PC. Sony's throwing so much stuff on PC right now, especially through PlayStation now. So I mean, I thought about getting a PS5, but seeing the shortages, I'm really not disappointed that I'm probably not going to get one, just because most of these games are coming to PC anyway. like Halo. I didn't have to go out and buy an Xbox. I'm able to play it on my PC.
Yeah, and especially since Xbox has that tighter relationship with PC now than they have pretty much ever. Really, the only exclusives that you're looking at are Sony exclusives, and there's really only a handful of them, especially the ones that are tied specifically to the PlayStation 5. Demon Souls, Returnal. I'm pretty sure I just named all of them.
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that's all of them.
Yeah, right? Like, and it's been a year, and that's the whole library. I mean, obviously, there's probably more than that, but those are just some of the bigger ones. And even for past gen, you're really only buying a next gen console, to me at least, really only buying it for either A, the 60 frames per second, or B, the 4K resolution. And that's it. That's it, you know? And maybe buying an Xbox would be more convenient for people. If they were available, it would be more convenient for people to purchase that instead of a higher end PC. But honestly, I think that in this day and age, buying a PC is probably just a better investment, especially in the long term. Especially in the long term. And I mean, but then again, even PCs, if you're trying to get a, GTX, 30 whatever, I'm pretty sure they're all having shortages at this point. Like one's not easier to get than the other. Like my RTX, or no, did I say GTX? I meant RTX. Um,
Proud.
God, uh, you know, I was looking for everywhere for an RTX 3060, and I had to bite the bullet and buy a pre-made rig, and that hurt because I really wanted to build my own computer, and but the only way I could, and the only way that I could afford an RTX 3060 that didn't cost double the MSRP at the time was to buy a pre-built computer. And honestly, I would probably recommend that for most people if that's the avenue that you want to go to sort of combat the console shortages. So just buy a pre-built PC, medium, at least on the medium end. And again, it's one of those things that'll last you for, especially a medium end PC, probably like 5-6 years, and
And it's
and
always
again,
something that you can upgrade later on,
Mm.
part by
yeah,
part, when you get more money for it. When the shortages sort of level out with consoles, it's you're stuck on the buying cycle of the company that's making them. So when they're ready to phase out their next or their last gen, you are now forced to spend $500 in bulk to buy the next console just so you can play the latest games, because eventually all those games will stop being released on past gen and only be released on the current generation. So, I mean, I definitely agree PCs are a better long-term investment. Also, this way you get to customize it too. If you want RGB, go RGB. Get yourself a keyboard and some pretty nifty keycaps and a light up desk mat that you also have on top of another desk mat because you're a weeb and you spent $50 on a KDA desk mat because you love KDA. I'm calling myself out here so nobody else can.
Ruin my
It's
opportunity.
um, so yeah, I definitely agree. A PC is a better investment, I think, especially right now in this day and age. You don't need the latest new graphics card. Graphics cards are still expensive, but you can definitely use a variety of resources like eBay or be careful, but Craigslist, to find some cheap computer parts. So, please cut that noise out.
no, I'm leaving that in.
Yeah,
God
leave
damn
that
it.
shit in.
The next topic that we are going to talk about for our end of the year wrap up, we are going to kick it over to something that everybody has been hearing about lately, and it is the Blizzard Activision sexual assaults and boycotts. Over 1,000, at least at this time of us talking about this, over 1,000 staff members of Activision slash Blizzard have called for the removal of the CEO Bobby Kotick. Apologies if I'm saying his name wrong. I believe I also saw some other articles saying some other people were protesting him as well. So yeah, we're gonna mainly focus on the responses from Xbox and PlayStation because, as you know, Xbox has had past ties with them and they have current ties with them as well. And right now with PlayStation, PlayStation has exclusive rights to Call of Duty. They get all that stuff early, and Activision is the parent company to Blizzard.
Yeah, right now everybody needs to that's associated with these with Blizzard really needs to kind of like I don't want to be mean about it. Like they need to like kind of be like, yo, we're not, okay with this. Uh, because this is some mess of shit going on, and Sony, I know Sony and Microsoft definitely don't want to be associated with any of this because,
Apparently, Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer have both called out Activision.
yeah.
It appears that Phil Spencer has told Xbox is evaluating all aspects of our relationship with the embattled publisher. Will they cut ties? We'll see. I think this is more so just a hey, if you aren't going to get your shit together and you aren't going to fix this problem, there will be consequences. I'm very curious to see what those consequences are, being that Activision slash Blizzard is extremely huge. I know personally myself, I played a lot of World of Warcraft, and as soon as I heard the sexual assault allegations coming out and what was happening, I stopped. I don't want to support a company like this. I don't want to give them my money. I don't want to be associated with them. I took that right out of my computer and I was like, don't expect me back. And it's shameful, at least on Activision's part, that their response just seems very blown over. Like they just want to sweep all this under the rug. They said to a Activision Blizzard spokesperson, told Bloomberg, my bad. We respect all the feedback from our valued partners, and we are committed to the work of ensuring our culture and workspace is safe, diverse, and inclusive. That's generic. Generic.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Very.
every sense of the word, it is generic. You take absolutely zero criticism for what is happening. You basically just say, okay, thanks guys, thanks for your feedback, but we're not actually going to listen to you because we don't give two shits about you, except you need them to survive. You need them to put your game on their console. Let's think about this for a second. So if you say we're not going to do anything, and then they being Xbox and PlayStation, they say, okay, fuck you, we're done, we're cutting ties completely, your games aren't on our systems anymore, how long is Blizzard slash Activision going to last?
Considering Blizzard banks on PC and Activision, especially Activision's the main one, I think, because Sony has really close ties with Activision. They get all the Call of Duty stuff early. They get Call of Duty stuff exclusively. So I know it'd be a big hit if, Sony decided, hey, fuck Activision. We're not going to do that anymore. And Call of Duty, loses one of its biggest, what do you call it? Supporters. That's really going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot.
As to what Jim Ryan, Jesus, we cannot speak tonight at all. PlayStation's chief Jim Ryan spoke regarding the Activision Blizzard sexual misconduct and harassment claims. Apparently, he wrote in an article that he and leadership were disheartened and frankly stunned to read that Activision has not done enough to address the deeply seated culture of discrimination and harassment. We reached out immediately to Activision after the article was published to express our deep concerns and to ask how they plan to address the claims made in the article, he wrote. We do not believe their statements of responses properly address the situation. I mean, hello, you were just called out. Your responses aren't enough. We need to actually see some change. And being that we briefly mentioned this before we started the podcast, I'm still very curious to know if Activision knew what was going on. Like, I called Activision the parent because they're the parent company. So I feel like it's one of two things. Did Activision know what was going on at Blizzard and then they just were like, okay, we're not going to say anything, keep it hush hush. As long as you guys don't go too extreme, we're fine. Or were they actually completely blind and like now this is coming out and they just don't know how to react because they're a deer in the headlights? I'd like to say it's the latter because I want to give Activision, some sort of credit. I mean, you're two massive companies put into one. How are you going to know every little thing that's going on? But at the same exact time, you should have it in place that if something like this happens and somebody reports it, that it's handled correctly and it shouldn't have been going on for as long as it did.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
this.
Activision's gonna have to take action to show, hey, uh, this is a serious thing, something that should have been taken care of a long time, and so they need to take action. It might be too little, too late, but they still need to, take action at this point.
Yeah, totally agreed. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I was really excited for the whole Diablo 2 remaster thing, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I really don't want to give my money to these people,
Mm-hmm.
but I did it anyway, which is looking back on it, kind of shameful. But um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I mean, they have first off, they have to guillotine Kotick, not literally. Um,
Or
no, I mean like they have to metaphorically guillotine Kotick. He's got to be out, and then they have to pretty much. I don't even know how you would go about doing this, but they just have to revamp their entire their HR department. Firstly, I mean like they have to start taking these accusations seriously for the most part. Like a big part of me speculates that they just kind of pushed it under the rug, especially since, it was reported that Kodak knew about it and didn't do anything about it. So that's the first step is metaphorically guillotining this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually taking measures to clean up the culture within the company. And I don't know how you would go about doing that rather than just blanket statement saying you got to take this accusation seriously and do something about it. But I have no idea how you would change a company and their culture so suddenly. I mean, obviously, ideally, it would happen overnight, but I mean, it won't. And like Mike said, it's too little, too late. But they got to do something at this
Mm-hmm.
point, because they're essentially just being called out, like, hey, this shit happened a couple months ago, and possibly, definitely longer, and you still haven't done anything. Then I feel like Sony would be especially justified to not only pull support completely, but like I don't know, Sony Sony pulled Cyberpunk for having too many bugs, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be remiss if they pulled all Activision Blizzard games over this, especially if nothing's done further, right? I would have no doubt in my mind that they would start pulling stuff left and right to show the consequences of their actions, and that would hurt both of them. I mean, Sony would still survive, obviously, but Activision would suffer greatly from that.
I mean,
And
to also branch off of what you said that like pulling Activision Blizzard games would hurt them. I know that there would probably be a lot of uproar from the gaming community because a lot of people make their living off of playing video games. So it's like professional Call of Duty players, like if that game's off, like how are they supposed to make their living now? But at the same exact time, it's like there's sexual assault allegations going on and the company needs to be held accountable, and it's like, I'm so sorry, you don't deserve to be a byproduct of somebody else's faults, but it could potentially happen.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, and whether or not they actually pull the games, in general, their stock has to be plummeting. I mean, I checked it earlier, and it's obviously not doing well. A couple of months ago, they were up to like $100 a share, and now they're like hovering around 60 last I checked. I mean, if that goes any lower, you know, not only if you're a shareholder, but if you're on that board, I would be furious. Would be absolutely pissed at all of this right now because I mean, why wouldn't you be? This is probably the worst thing that could have happened. Just in terms of like, I'm sorry that I'm laughing about this, but it's just, it's mind-boggling to me that this even happened in the first place. I mean, obviously they're not the first company that this has happened to. Like, I know Riot Games. They were a big, uh, I don't want to say they were big. I don't know. There was a lot of harassment, sexual assault, bro culture, all of that surrounding Riot Games, and God only knows how different they are today, right? Like
We
I was
also
talking about
have.
before.
I was gonna say
What
we
were you
also
gonna
have
say?
the Smash Brothers thing with all the pro players.
Right. Yeah. That was huge. That was huge. And I mean, and that's, we'll probably touch on this later, but that's the reason why Nintendo, really, okay, I'm speculating here, but I believe that's why Nintendo was never really big on the whole sponsoring competitive scene because of the potential for their players to just do some dumb shit. And again, I'm not diminishing sexual assault to quote dumb shit, but just anything under the sun that would make their company look bad, reflect badly on anyone. I don't, this is just a shitstorm. And again, if I was on the board, if I was a shareholder of Activision Blizzard, I'd be selling my stock right now. And I'd be selling it right now because I feel like it's only going to go deeper and deeper into the hole. Because again, it takes a long time for you to recover, both from a share perspective and a company culture perspective, and you're forever tarnished by that. I mean, you have countless employees at this point, not only who are affected by affected by all of this on an individual microscopic level, but then you also have, at least now, the support of 1,000 other employees calling for this guy's head on a silver plate. Like, it's just crazy to me, man. I don't even know how he got here. It's just sad. It's just really sad. I mean, I'm only saying that because of the individual employees that have had to deal with any kind of sexual assault, harassment, everything under the sun. Like, it's really not a novel idea to say that that shouldn't happen.
Honestly, it's a touchy subject for everyone, and
Mhm.
I'm just hoping that everyone who has been affected knows somebody that's affected, that they get the justice that they deserve from the people that have caused them any harm and pain and suffering, because that's not fair. You go there to work. Of course, you want to make friends, but you shouldn't be treated like your meat, and you shouldn't be harassed or assaulted for any reason at all, regardless of where you are and who you are. It's just men in power that have taken advantage of people who it just should have never happened. So, yeah, screw Activision Blizzard for their response. It's bullshit. It's pathetic. And as we've said before, and I understand that, this statement is sort of generic, but do better. We've called for better in the past. There's no reason why it shouldn't be happening now. Do better for your employees. Do better by your company. Just do better. And again, I know that's very generic, and this is a very serious topic, but it's heavy, and I think that phrase just sums things up perfectly. So we're going to move on to a less heavy topic about spending money. We're all going broke. It's about to be the holiday season. And while you are crying in the corner because you have 2 pennies to your name and your heat isn't on because you can't pay your bill because you literally just went out and bought everybody Christmas gifts and forgot about yourself, we're going to talk about how Microsoft bought Bethesda and then how Sony bought Firesprite, Bluepoint, and House Marquee. It's now the acquisition game. Who can buy the gaming studios to make exclusive rights for their consoles?
Um,
$7.5 billion. That's how much it cost Microsoft to get ZeniMax Media, parent company of Doom and Fallout Studio, Bethesda Softworks. That is an insane amount of money. I can't even begin to describe how billions of dollars don't even make sense to me at this point.
and while that is a ridiculous amount of money, because several people could live their lives and their children's lives off of that money, um, I think it was a smart move on Xbox's part because they gained 23 studios out of that. 23 first party studios. That's a lot of games.
That
Yeah.
And they
side note, that also includes Bethesda sub studios, Arcane, who did Dishonored, Machine Games, who did Wolfenstein, ID Softwares that did Doom, and Tango Gameworks, who did The Evil Within.
yeah, and I was gonna bring that up is just they got studios that have done really popular, really good games. So them acquiring ZeniMax Media was really, really smart. Yeah, they paid a shit ton of money for it, but I feel in the end it will, come back to really pay off because some of these studios that they acquired, not just Bethesda, but a lot of these other studios make games that people love, that people cherish. Um, Games that people are gonna buy.
And especially with the news that Elder Scrolls 6 will release for Xbox and PC only, that is a huge blow. I mean, and we were talking about exclusives before, and it's just I don't know, especially since okay, so like Halo, again, it all goes back to Halo. Halo was pretty much the reason that Xbox was successful. Not maybe, we'll give credit to some other people, but it was an exclusive, right? And I think it's interesting to see how the exclusives are being taken a bit more seriously by Microsoft. And I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 not coming out for the PlayStation is kind of a big deal. I mean, I can't remember the last time. Actually, I don't know if Morrowind was ever on the PlayStation.
I
I
don't
don't know.
remember.
Yeah, and Oblivion. I actually don't know. It's been too long. Should have done some more research, but just the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive is insane. And then pair that with Game Pass. Whew, oh my goodness. They are making all of that money back. It is insane. Like, you throw Elder Scrolls 6 in a Game Pass, oh my goodness. So many people would just hop on Game Pass just for that alone. Like, I would. If it's coming out for PC Game Pass, I'm doing it because that's just an insane offer. Like, oh boy, I want to see who else they buy. It's insane. And then even going over to Sony, I mean, especially these over these past couple months, Sony not only got House Marquee, which made Returnal and Resogun, they got Bluepoint, which was responsible for the Demon Souls remake and the Shadow of Colossus remake, amongst others, like the God of War collection. Oh, they also developed 2011's Metal Gear Solid HD collection for Konami. If they did that again, I would do it. I'd buy it. We were talking about that before. If they somehow remastered Metal Gear Solid, great. Especially if I don't have to give money to Konami. If I can give money to Bluepoint and not Konami, done. Done. Konami sucks. Hate Konami. We're not talking about that though. They also bought Playroom developers Firesprite, which I'm not too familiar with them. But between House Marquee and Bluepoint, amongst others, I feel like this Haley was talking about the acquisition game, that's what this is. Exclusives are coming back. Not that they were ever really gone, but I feel like Sony has put more of an effort into that over the past couple years than Microsoft has. Um, I mean, and that's just some good shit. Like exclusives are what drives console success. 100%. Pretty much the only reason I bought my PlayStation 5 is to play Demon Souls. So I'm pretty much looking at a $500 Demon Souls machine right now. And that hurts my heart a little bit. But at the same time, that's how they get you, right? Like that's that's how you do it. So a lot of people are going to be buying Xboxes when Elder Scrolls 6 comes around. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, I think they learned from Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo thrives on, console exclusives. I mean, just look at the one we're talking about today, Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's getting such good reviews. I know Pokemon's gonna sell well. Metroid Dread just came out about a month ago. Nintendo thrives on that. So I'm wondering if, Microsoft and Sony are seeing this and they're just like, dude, there's so much money to be made if we start doing exclusives again.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
And especially, sorry, especially because these newer generation of consoles, I don't want to say they aren't selling well because they are, but it gives more of an incentive to actually go out and buy said consoles, because even before we were talking about like, no, you could probably just get around with a last gen console, but no, man, if they start putting exclusives exclusively on next gen consoles, that will drive people to buy them. That the answer to the question, is it worth it, will change very quickly, and that's huge.
I mean, I don't really think. I sort of think that Sony and Microsoft have taken the time to pick up these studios for the future. I feel like these studios are probably developing their exclusives right now to come out for when the new generation is actually in the hands of consumers. Because, like I said earlier, what's the point of pointing out a exclusive game right now when you can't sell a lot of copies of it because nobody can get their hands on it? So, yes, eventually everyone is going to have to either A, build a PC, which you're probably going to go the way of Xbox if you do that because Sony has come out and said that they're not doing day one releases for PC, or suck it up and wait if you want to play Sony on PlayStation or on PC, or buy a new gen console, when they're actually here.
Yeah, I mean,
But again, I mean, I feel like we're at a point now that it's like this is what's going to start happening is Sony and Microsoft are going to slowly start snatching up really, really, really good studios as sort of a haha, I got it before you. Now screw you. But
oh, totally.
yeah, 100%. Also, as a big screw you, Nintendo has thrown us for a loop. And Brennan had mentioned this earlier. Nintendo has partnered with Panda to announce that Panda is bringing the first official licensed circuit for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Melee to the United States. That's definitely big, 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 big. Please insert me saying big a bajillion times. News, and Brennan will tell you why.
I mean, like even we kind of touched on it before. Like Nintendo has pretty much shied away from the competitive scene like entirely. Most Smash circuits are, to my knowledge, hosted by rather local events and venues. So the fact that Nintendo's not only acknowledging that the competitive scene exists, they're partnering with a rather large company, and they're giving Melee some love. That's insane. Do you know how old Super Smash Bros. Melee is? I don't. Probably 15 plus years old.
It's
I
old.
can't even. Yeah, like that's to give a game that old that much love and acknowledge that that game still has a fan base this day and age is huge. I mean, and I can't imagine that anyone would have seen this coming, like ever. People have been pleading for Nintendo to give the competitive scene some attention for so long, probably since Melee came out. Let's be honest. Like, I don't know about Smash Bros. 64. That's like the odd child. No one really talks about that one. Um, but Melee was huge. People still play Melee. Like people will swear that that's the best one.
There's still
That's
places around
insane.
where I live that still do local melee tournaments.
Yeah, like exactly. Like imagine, imagine, you making a culmination of every character, every stage, every song that comes out, and people are still like, nah, but I want to play the one from 15 years ago. Like, come on, guys. Like, oh, come on. But no, people want to play it, and that's amazing. That's amazing. I did not think that this was going to happen anytime soon, especially since, like we talked about, the whole sexual assault scandal with a bunch of pro players coming forward, maybe not coming forward, came to light. Um, so the fact that they're, kind of reversing that stance is rather large. It is a big deal in my eyes, and I imagine most melee fans in general are probably pretty happy about this. I can't see anyone being upset about this in any way possible. Like, this is a win. This is a win. Unless I don't know, unless somehow Nintendo screws it up, which again, I can't really see how that would happen. Um, that is a slam dunk, in my opinion.
I I'm surprised it took this long. Like, I'm kind of just like, but why? Why did you take this long, Nintendo? Are you ashamed? Do you just not want to do this? Like, there's money there, so what are you trying to. I don't know. Nintendo works in very mysterious ways.
If I had to give a really quick answer, and again, pure speculation, it's just that Nintendo, similar to Disney, is very, very protective of their brand and their image. Especially since, and again, I don't mean to say this as an insult or anything, but both companies' audiences are kind of directed towards children. I'm not saying that Nintendo is for babies. I'm just saying that, I mean, a lot of kids grew up with Nintendo, well, especially my generation,
My generation
older.
too.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, I if it wasn't for Nintendo's appeal to kids at that point in my life, who knows where I would be right now. So that's not a bad thing. But because their audience is mainly directed at kids and people that were kids at some point, which is everybody, I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. They sort of have to be very protective of their brand and image, and they probably just didn't want anything to go wrong. Period. I mean, and we can look at the avalanche that was the Smash scene, sexual assault, that whole thing. That's exactly the reason why I think that they would be afraid of something like that, and I don't know what made them change their mind. I have no idea. It's not probably not an easy decision to come to, especially since something as recent as that happened. I don't know. I can't think of a good reason as to why they would switch their mind other than they just know that it would make a lot of people happy.
I also feel like it's because it's like when you sponsor something and something goes wrong, people are going to expect you to fix it. Sort of like in the Activision Blizzard situation. It happened to Blizzard, but people are demanding that the parent company do something about it because that's their company. So it's like if something happens at a Smash tournament, Nintendo is going to be held responsible. So I feel like they've just been hesitant to do that because they don't want to get wrapped up into any messy drama, yet they're still doing it. So I feel like partnering with someone is probably one of the reasons why they did that, because then they can't be fully held liable if something happens. It's like, okay, well, sure, we sponsored this, but they did too. So it's like Nintendo's just here's our game. We're giving this over to Panda to facilitate, and if anything goes wrong, you blame them, essentially.
Yeah, I'd buy that. I'd buy that 10 times out of 10. Like you said, the liability kind of gets split in half. Uh, because and it's also, again, if anything were to go wrong, Panda's reputation would kind of be hit by that as well. And
Yeah.
I'm not even really familiar with Panda, but research, according to their Twitter bio, it says world's premier solo esports team. So and they've only got 142,000 followers. I mean, only, right? But like, I don't know.
It's a
It
questionable decision because it's like, who are these people?
yeah. I mean, but honestly, probably people within the Smash competitive scene would probably be more prone to know more about that. And even if not, I mean, it puts Panda on the map, right? I mean, like
100%.
it got me to go to their Twitter page, right? So that's a click, that's one click. And imagine all the other people looking at this news right now. So it's a win-win for everyone. This is just good news in general. I really don't see anything bad about this.
They host bamboo battles, which look like mini tournaments for Smash. And yeah, it looks like they're very involved with Smash.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
about right.
mean,
So
and then
basically, we're going to be sitting here going, don't fuck it up.
Basically, yeah, that's what I've been thinking this whole time.
Like,
yeah.
this is huge. And honestly, this is a once in a lifetime thing because if they fuck it up, Nintendo's never going to do anything like this again. And they are going to close that vault door and be like, ha, fuck you. So, shout out to Panda Global. Please don't fuck this up for everybody. If anybody from there listens to our podcast, they don't even know we exist. The last thing that we are going to talk about for our end of the year news wrap up is Microsoft and how they are talking about emulations and how Phil Spencer stated that, excuse me, Phil Spencer stated in an article by NME in their gaming section written by Andy Brown that there's a positive reason for gaming to want to follow in preserving older video games. Spencer suggests that one way to enact video game preservation would be for industry leaders to offer legal emulation. My hope, and I think I have to present it in that way as of now, is as an industry we'd work on legal emulation that's allowed modern hardware to run any, within reason, older executable, allowing someone to play the games. Makes sense. There's a lot of illegal emulators out there right now for games that you just can't play on modern hardware. So why not keep those video games running with legal emulation? It's money. Money.
It seems to, again, if what Nintendo has been attempting to do, okay, well, first off, Nintendo was, especially with the Wii and the whole virtual console, right? To me, that's legal emulation. With the whole NES, SNES, and now the Nintendo 64 games being put on the Switch, I would classify that as legal emulation. I'm not happy about the price and the performance of that, but I think it's maybe a step forward. Obviously, it's not as good as Virtual Console for some reason, but that's a different conversation altogether. And then PlayStation has the whole PlayStation Now, the streaming service where you can play older games. And I don't know. Phil Spencer even said, quote, that seems like a great North Star for us as an industry. And it's like, hell yeah, man. Like, that's awesome. And with Xbox, quote, adding over 70 new backwards compatible games to its library, they're already kind of on that path. And I don't know, I'm all for emulation, just in general. Like, obviously I can't condone anyone emulating a game that they do not own previously, but preservation in general is so important to humans like in our society, right? Imagine not being able to know what the Magna Carta was, right? Like, imagine not knowing what Halo is in like 200 years. That would suck, right? Like, that would suck. So I think we should put Halo in a box and let people play it for the next couple decades at the very least in its original form, right? Um, and that's even what like remasters are essentially going for, right? They're essentially going for a very pretty legal emulation of older titles, right? Like if Blue Point never created the Demon Souls remake, I never would have been able to play one of the best games arguably ever, you know? Like and that's amazing. So, just in general, yeah, I think emulation is great. Phil Spencer, I really hope you, I just hope this works for you so much because I feel like more people need to be open about the possibility of emulation. Like Nintendo is so against emulation, it's insane. Only for them to turn around and create a suboptimal product with a $50 price tag. Like that's not how I think you should do legal emulation. I don't exactly know how you should do it. I don't have any solutions to that problem. But I think people should start just thinking about it in general, especially bigger names in the industry. Or I don't know, make it more accessible. I mean, because again, like Sony has that PlayStation Now service. I don't really know anyone that uses it like at all, but I don't know. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, this looks really cool. This looks good. I think my hesitation is the price ultimately, but yeah, I mean, because like who wants to pay a lot of money for a game that came out like 30 years ago that you really could just download and play on your phone for free, right? Like that's a really hard problem to get around, right? Like how do you make people pay for something that is essentially free, right? And
Uh,
it's not like pirating, right? Where your ISP can come after you and be like, "Hey, stop that." There's really no way for you to get in trouble for emulating. The only thing that really happens is that certain emulation sites get taken down, get cease and desists, but that doesn't affect you on an individual level other than it just not being available. You know, whereas pirating, you know, your ISP can literally just turn off your internet. So it's how do you combat that, right? I don't know.
And all these remasters and remakes show people want to play the old games. So emulating, especially games from like the Nintendo era. Well, Nintendo's already doing that from like the PlayStation era. You know, more PS2 games because I think PlayStation now only does PS3, PS4, and PS2.
Mm,
Um, but PlayStation, there were so many good games on PlayStation that I wish I could play again, and I can't because I either have to emulate it or I have to find a really old copy on eBay somewhere. Um, that and probably pay a pretty penny because these games are kind of rare now. So if companies like Sony were like, okay, we're gonna start emulating all our past libraries, not just select titles from the PS2 and PS3. We're gonna start emulating everything. I'd get PlayStation now because there's like a shit ton of games right there that I'd want to play. So I like that, Phil Spencer's kind of, pushing for this because I mean, it would appeal to so many gamers and just make so many gamers happy.
the way I see it too is especially on Xbox's front, you know, they have Game Pass, right? And to me, something like Sony or PlayStation Now, but with a bigger library, like you mentioned, is essentially just a retro Game Pass. No, like that's awesome. That is amazing. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. And you can't even say that, like, oh, it's a hardware performance thing. No, it's not. Don't even pull that. My phone can play Nintendo 64 games nowadays. Like, come on. And obviously, I don't think anyone would even really make that argument. But man, I don't know. Emulation gets such a bad rap. And if you're doing it from the video game preservation perspective, which you kind of have to, because otherwise it is technically pirating. I mean, that's just huge. Why would you not want to? Why would you not want to do that? There are so many websites that are dedicated to the preservation of 50s and 60s music, and there's archives of old films and TV that you can just watch. There's websites that have abandonware and retro games that you can play. But if I want to play Earthbound, like Mike said, I gotta give up a kidney to afford a Nintendo
you
64
don't need
cartridge.
those.
I mean, you need both of them,
Not
right?
really.
You can live with one.
Yeah,
Just you're not
you
gonna
can
be very
technically live with
happy.
one.
You're just not gonna be happy.
Don't drink
Yeah,
a
well, I
lot of
mean,
alcohol.
well, okay, well, I mean, I don't, but But
But
still,
yeah,
man.
you want both kidneys though. I understand that. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I'm
Yeah.
selling one on the black market.
I was gonna say give up a leg at first, but I was like, maybe that's too much. Because you definitely need two of those. Well, okay, not to be ableist or anything, but like, come on.
Because I mean, you only have two, so you can only get two games. I mean,
Was that how that works?
I think so.
God damn. Yeah. Emulation's cool. Okay.
It is.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, Phil Spencer, right? Phil Spencer just knocked it out of the park recently. Telling Bobby Kotick to go fuck himself. He's saying that emulation's cool. He's buying Bethesda for $7.5 billion that he just has lying around.
He just opened his wallet real quick. Okay, here.
So how much for that? 7.5 billion? Here you go. Don't even ask any questions. I don't know. I feel like Xbox in general, just as a company, people have been kind of meh over the past couple years, but I feel like recently they're really trying to appeal to their customers more than ever, and come up with a more consumer friendly space, especially with Game Pass. Like that's huge, and it'll only get better with the more they add to that library. And this is a very easy way to add more to that library that they know people will enjoy, right? Like, because again, going back to Nintendo, especially when they were rolling out their NES and SNES games, they were rolling out shit that no one had ever even heard of. And it was like, why? How is Earthbound still not on this? How is that possible? Why are you giving me like Panzer Dragoon or something? I don't even know. I might have made that up. But come on, Earthbound. Why? That's such a moneymaker, dude. If they put Earthbound, just Earthbound, on the Nintendo Switch Online, everyone in their, okay, maybe not everyone, but a ton of people would be like, okay, fine, here's my money, Nintendo. And yet they have it. And it's like, why? You were sitting on a gold mine. What are you doing? And Phil Spencer knows that. He knows that.
Microsoft just might have won the year. So maybe we will give that our final opinion in our end of the year award show episode happening next month. But for now, we are going to leave it here. We said what we needed to say about the end of the year. Let's just give one final phrase about what we thought of this year. Who wants to kick it off?
It was
a phrase. It's just a phrase, Brendan. Don't go into a paragraph.
Oh, garbage. Just absolute trash. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, I mean, all right, we talked about a lot of good news, but we also talked about a lot of bad news.
Definitely have to agree. Mike, before Brennan continues on with his 80-page essay, I love you, Brennan. What do you have to say about the end of the year?
Holidays are coming up. Eat some good food, play some good games.
Sounds about right. And to wrap it up, and basically all of those phrases, this year was absolute horse shit, just like last year. But continue playing video games while the world burns. That's what we like to see. Anyway, it is the end of our episode for the pre-review crew for November and December of 2021. We'll see you next episode for our end of the year award show, and we'll wrap up the end of the year there. Now, until then, I hope you are well. Have a great day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. And I've always said those out of order. We'll see you next time.